think that, especially when we look at what's going on now, there's so many different ways that artistic expression is manifesting itself in how people are expressing either their frustrations, right? How people are expressing their identities, within this. For me, and it's actually a part of my research, one of the ways you can really see it is through what's happening with the monuments throughout not even throughout the country, but throughout the world. So for years, I've always had an interest in this relationship between representation and ideology and how those things manifest within monuments, but also how people of African descent and how people of European descent and Western and Eurocentric philosophy can kind of contradict and contrast each other when people are reading and defining what monuments are supposed to represent, right? So, throughout the country, you have these monuments that are, let's say, attributes to Christopher Columbus, right? Or attributes to the Confederacy. And when you listen to the way people describe them, they talk about history. And when you hear the debates around the potential removal, they talk about the erasure of history. And for me, you see how certain groups of people are looking at what the notion of a monument is in two completely different ways. Because, as to what Christopher Columbus did, you can't erase that. So whether his statue is there or not, there's no way you can ever erase Christopher Columbus. However, to have a statue of someone who has no attachment to the United States really shows that it's about ideology. And to have an image like him is about what the ideology surrounding him in the Western world represents, right? To have a monument of Confederate soldiers and Confederate generals, right? Not to be put up right after the Civil War, but to be put up during the 20th century when we're talking about Reconstruction and civil rights movements. It's about ideological dominance, right? And who gets to have those ideologies played out in the public sphere without disruption. And when you hear how people of African descent talk about monuments, it's about a feeling of how that impacts them, right? And what do those ideologies represent? I had a chance to spend time in Denmark when these two Black women, one was a Black Danish woman named Jeanette Ellers, another was a Black Prussian woman named Lavon Bell. They both collaborated to create this sculpture called I Am Queen Mary, which was, she was one of the four women who were involved in the first labor revolt in Danish history. Now, to have the first sculpture of the first public sculpture of a Black woman in all of Scandinavia, right? When everything happened this summer with the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and you see the way like the world erupted, people in Denmark, Black people in Denmark, we're talking about whether you're from Eritrea or Ghana, Uganda, and you live in Denmark, they would go to that statue to talk about what it meant to be Black in Denmark, to show that even though they may not have like a genealogical connection with that woman, there's a type of ideological and spiritual connection, being a person of African descent, that they were able to relate to. So when we look at artistic expression, representation and ideology are very, very important. And for these monuments, as just one example, shows how people are forcing the public to acknowledge their representation, to acknowledge the way history is told and how history tells their story, but also to the way ideologies that kind of define society interact with who they are as a people. So I really think that you really see art tell that story in a very, very particular way that's needed.